Well, hello everyone. I am so excited for you to hear from one of the authors, Carol Koppelman, from the book Ageless Voices. And this is an incredible collaborative book of 37 authors who are speaking about the ageless mindset. I would like to welcome my co-host, Debbie Prediger, who is also a co-author in the book. So Debbie, I'm going to have you take it away from here.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, for doing this with us. This interview series is beautiful. And one of the biggest gifts to me is getting to know my co-authors better. And even before the book comes out, there's often times that we have like a celebration party after a collaborative book, and then we read each other's stories, or we might even like verbally read to each other in a book club atmosphere, which are all great things. But it is such a gift to me to get to know their hearts as we're going through this journey and as we are cross promoting and launching. And we're in book launch mode right now. So, Carol, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I've asked many of the other authors how they can describe themselves. And I can feel your light. You are just beaming. You are such a bright, beautiful light in the world. But from your perspective, how do you acknowledge yourself or the gift that you bring to the world? How do you tell people who you are?
Well, it's a long fought challenge to get
Mhm.
to this point. I will tell you that, and that's not really talked about in the book. But I describe myself, I guess, as someone who's always adventurous, always curious, always, and I've always been that way. I am like one of your other guests have never thought about my age really. I'm 68. So a couple years from 70, that kind of didn't freak me out so much, but it's just like, wow, it's a new decade pretty soon. But I have parents. We lost my dad last year, and he lived in 93. My mom's still living at 96. So I really never thought about age really being an impediment by any means. I think I bring the light to the world. I would say now that I'm sort of semi retired. I have a small business, but that I hold babies in the NICU, so I love doing that. I've loved children and I love babies, and I just want everybody to know that they're not alone. I think that's my main goal, to let people know that they're not alone.
Wow. Well, we've talked a lot about legacy here and your message and your mission.
Mm,
And I can see even by your beautiful necklace that you have that love is a very important aspect to you.
mhm.
And obviously, for someone, and I get chills as I say for someone that holds babies in the NICU, that is one of the most beautiful gifts. And I well up in that because you never want anyone to feel alone.
Yeah.
And those poor parents who can't be there 24 hours a day don't want their babies to be alone.
Mhm. Mm.
Wow. Thank you for just doing that. It's so beautiful. Carol, let's go to your chapter. Or how many chapters do you actually have in the book?
I have one. I have one.
Okay. What is that teaser that you can give us to get us really interested in this story? Um, and not tell it to us all. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but for people that actually already know you, what would they be surprised about in this book, in this chapter?
Well, I wrote it about a month because I think we wrote it back in September. We submitted it in September last year. I wrote it probably a month after my dad had passed. And so I was full of emotions and full of actually being at that time, even though my mom's in an independent living facility, she required almost my full time
Mm.
care to help her through emotionally, essentially. And so I talk a lot about those challenges and also trying to grieve myself and suddenly being thrust into this situation where I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. So I would think that my friends and people who know me who haven't already heard the story, because they've probably heard the story, my very close friends have been through this journey with me, that that during they would be surprised at the spiritual um, change in me, because it really had to, you have to go through up and down, you have to go through the valleys and everything to get through that, and then see your have a relationship with God, but have it even became stronger. So mhm.
Wow, Carol, that's so beautiful. I lost my dad last fall, and
Mhm.
I can feel it
Yeah,
because you just have this, like, there's just this bond. And I too feel that writing, um it helps. If I'm getting out of what you're telling us is that the writing helped you. It was part of the grieving process, and it let you release that. So is there something, um what would you say to people, that what is the freedom that came to you, and what is the gift that came to you, um, from writing?
I think it was a cathartic experience, and it helped me, and then helped me kind of work through it. And to some degree, I have to give credit to Joe Dibley, who knows I met. That's how I found out about Joanne, and I knew her from. I was telling Debbie, I knew her from meeting her back in about 7 years ago at a women's convention. She said, you got to contact Joanne about this." So she kind of knew I needed that healing. So I want to say thank you to her very much for that. It helped me just work through those emotions, work through the challenge of things I'd never encountered before, and also be able to work through my own grief. So if that's the question you're asking, that's what it did. It did.
Oh,
Hmm.
no, that's beautiful the way you answered. And do you feel, because you said that you were working with your mom, you were supporting her, you were supporting yourself. So I am guessing that there are things that came out that your mother had never told you, or you didn't know about your father. Just beautiful things. I'm not saying like these deep, secrets, but
Yeah.
is there anything like that that came out that you wrote about in the chapter?
I didn't really talk about that because she was going through a lot of that valley. So, but I think what it did do is, and I have very close siblings. They live elsewhere, but they're very close. So, we became a lot closer during this time. And I talk about, I think the part of my chapter talks about nourishing your garden. And we learned more about experiences we had with my father during that time. And we already loved him very much, but the nourishing the garden that he was full-blooded Italian, and he was a big, and his I guess his great grandfather was a farmer, so he was all into his gardens. And so I figured uh, nourishing your garden when you're going through challenges, nourishing your garden every day, just to continue to be uh, uplifted and happy. So yeah. So
Wow.
we learned a lot about my dad, and he had a large influence, basically, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Carol, thank you for jumping on with us. We can't wait to listen, read your chapter, and continue to expand what Joanne has started here.
Okay. Thank you.